You are not sovereign over your life, no matter how fiercely you cling to the illusion of control. You awaken each day, perform rituals, make choices, but underneath it all, something unseen stirs a force older than you, deeper than your ego, more cunning than your rational mind. It isn't the machine, nor the marketplace. It is desire, not the noble yearning of the soul to evolve, to love, to create, but the fragmented, reactive craving born of conditioning, reactivity, and unresolved psychic hunger. A desire engineered into you slowly, silently, through repetition and reward until it felt natural to call it pleasure. How often have you sworn to yourself, today will be different, that you would create, stay focused, avoid the pit? And yet a flicker on the screen, a single image, a tiny cue, and you were gone again, pulled under, not because your will was weak, but because your inner architecture had been designed to fail. Beneath your confidence lies a mind distorted, eroticized, overstimulated, pulled away from wholeness. You were trained, not educated, to associate pleasure with the synthetic images, pixels, notifications. Your nervous system, once a compass of presence, has become a radar for escape, and every time you scroll, swipe, or react, you train yourself not to live, but to flee, to dissociate from the now. You weaken the part of yourself that once knew stillness, the part that once stood in full masculine presence. Perhaps you're just waking up to the devastation. Perhaps you've already watched purpose dissolve beneath cheap gratification, dreams fade beneath distraction. But know this, if the mind can be trained into enslavement, it can also be reawakened into sovereignty. This is not about tricks or hacks. This is a return to your center, a reclamation of desire, not through repression, but through reintegration. To place the lost king back on his throne, to transmute impulse into deliberate force, chaos into awareness, reaction into creative power. But before that can happen, you must confront a question with merciless honesty. Do you guide your mind, or does it drag you like a beast through dirt and illusion? Have you ever tried to focus, only to feel your attention hijacked by something invisible yet intimate? You intended to build, but clicked instead. You wanted to grow, but numbed yourself. The images didn't feed your spirit, they dulled it. They weren't distractions, they were manifestations of control. Subtle, deep, invasive, the architecture of your mind, your very soul, has been breached, and most never even notice. They think they choose what they consume, but choice is a delusion when the desire itself has been designed by others. You didn't reach for the image, it reached into you, and herein lies the most sinister truth of this age. They don't want your destruction, they want your distraction, because the distracted never create, never confront, never lead. They float and are steered. Today's battlefield is not land or resource, it is your psyche, and the most potent weapon is not violence, it is the erotic symbol, not the sacred erotic that unites souls, but the sterilized, fragmented, repeated image that stirs lust but severs meaning. Sex no longer belongs to the realm of intimacy. It's everywhere now, in advertisements, in algorithms, in microseconds of content repackaged and recycled until it becomes an ambient hum that enslaves the unconscious. These aren't images anymore, they are triggers engineered to evoke the primitive within you. A glance, a curve, a flash of skin, and your nervous system pays a price, not just in attention but in energy. In soul, you wake the next day fogged, confused, drained, but can't name the reason. This is not mere weakness, it is architecture. Every element designed to bypass your conscious defenses, triggering the ancient urge before you can even think. This is not by accident, this is designed to keep you grazing on stimulation, never nourishing yourself. But in every cycle there is a crack, a moment between the spark of impulse and the motion of your hand. That's where the revolution begins. You can remain entranced, or you can begin the painstaking process of return. Attention, after all, is the currency of your soul, and desire, real desire, is the furnace of transformation. But as long as your desire is not truly yours, you remain exiled from your own life. No chains are required when dopamine can bind you. This molecule, ancient and sacred, designed to guide you toward meaning, love, effort, creation, is now the very tool that cages you. You no longer cross deserts to earn truth. You swipe, you click, you drip. Feed your nervous system with false reward, and your brain learns this is enough, and so it stops reaching. Every shortcut reinforces the lie that depth is unnecessary. Every micro hit carves a deeper channel in your psyche, like a river etching into stone, until the stone forgets it was ever still. Over time, the current erodes everything. You lose the capacity for presence, for silence, for long-term effort. You grow numb to that which requires endurance. Relationships feel like burdens. Goals become hazy. Not because they're too hard, but because you've been taught to expect pleasure without effort. And when the real world asks something of you, you already feel too depleted to answer. Your reward circuitry hijacked, your essence fading. You seek stimulus, not satisfaction, and the result is a silent hell where everything is pleasing, but nothing is fulfilling. But know this, what was conditioned can be deconditioned. The pattern can be reversed. You can unlearn noise. You can reawaken your sensitivity to the sacred. But you must be willing to suffer, not physical pain, the pain of abstaining from anesthesia, because the silence will hurt. The space will echo, the cravings will scream, and that suffering is not failure, it is the detox, a cleansing of the psyche from the diet of meaninglessness. If you endure, something returns, the lost depth. The clarity that once guided men toward the stars, the pleasure in simplicity, the ability to love without needing to be entertained, you begin to become, not because you've added anything, but because you've stopped leaking. You thought your desires were your own, but they were bought, shaped, and sold back to you. This manipulation was not new. Its roots stretch back to the beginning of mass persuasion. The realization that people don't respond to facts, they respond to feelings. And the fastest path to the unconscious is through erotic symbolism. This knowledge birthed a world where nothing is sold on truth, only on the echo of desire. You are not buying soap, you are buying approval. You are not using apps, you are using yourself, and the currency, your unconscious vulnerability to erotic cue, because it is primal, it predates logic, it overrides reflection, and it's everywhere. In feeds, in thumbnails, in banners and blinking screens. Not coincidence, design, behavioral architecture. You have become the product, your attention the prize, and the most efficient theft of attention is unintegrated sexuality. Not the sacred erotic that fuses body and soul, but the fractured image that tugs at your lower instincts. If you continue this way, your sovereignty dies one click at a time. But if you awaken, if you remember that what seduces you controls you, then you begin to see. The man who responds to every image has lost the thread of his own longing. He no longer desires, he reacts, and while he reacts, others shape the world, but there is another path. It begins with witnessing, tracing the origin of the hijack, following the thread of your attention back through the maze. You must relearn how to see not through the eyes, but through the soul, and then you can begin to transmute. Desire, once used against you, can be the fire that builds your kingdom. Your mind is soil, every input a seed. What you plant grows, what you water thrives. The weeds of your attention, shallow, compulsive content, have overrun the field. And now, when you try to cultivate presence, the earth is barren, exhausted. It's not just pornography, it's triviality, mindless consumption, soul erosion by endless stimulation. When silence feels unbearable, when boredom becomes terror, you know the damage runs deep. But even poisoned earth can be restored. First, you must guard the gates, examine what enters. Do not let chaos pass as entertainment. Look to your feed. Does it feed you or feed on you? You need not become a monk, but you must stop feeding demons. Replace, purge, rebuild slowly. Trade titillation for wisdom. Trade noise for stillness. You will miss the flood of stimulation, but in that absence, new space will appear, and in that space, clarity will be born. Slowly, you begin to return, you listen deeper, sleep richer, create with focus, not because the world changed, but because you did. The detoxed mind is fertile. The man who chooses what to plant within it becomes a creator of worlds. The mind is a wild beast. Untrained, it will drag you to ruin, but there is an ancient reign, presence, and its simplest form is meditation. In this world, meditation feels foolish. The dopamine, drunk psyche screams, you're wasting time. But this is the test. You've been conditioned to move, chase, react, but the inner warrior emerges in stillness, not in frenzy. Sit, breathe, observe, let your mind rebel, let it scream, let it tremble. It is not used to being seen. But in that fire something awakens, the observer, he who does not flee from desire, but watches it rise and fall like weather, he who does not suppress his shadow, but integrates it, and there, in that still space between stimulus and action, true freedom is born. Not silence of mind, but sovereignty over it. This is your rebirth, not through conquest of the outer world, but through reconciliation with the chaos within. This is the warrior's path, to return to yourself.
Whole